Hey everybody, this is Don from Wizard Tower Games. We were going to be doing this show on the Vlog of Many Things, but my compatriot Tom from Tabletop Tap Room is off doing dad duties because his stepson is graduating with a master's degree today. Congratulations to him. And Tom
Yep.
and Tammy are off doing that. So the burden's on me with Mr. Erik
Uh-oh.
Tenkar, the infamous Erik Tenkar.
Infamous, yes.
Infamous in certain circles.
Certain cycles, iconic in other cycles, infamous in others.
That's right.
You love him, you hate him, but
Well,
you probably
Erik
know.
has involved me and Tom, and I'm very grateful for this in all seriousness in Wizard Tower Games to publish his game, or actually republish um,
Right.
Swords and Sorcery Light into Blades and Sorcery Light, which is kind of like a revamp. Tell you what, I'll let you kind of explain how it's going and what's with your baby.
Yeah. Okay. So, the long story short, when I retired 8 years ago, holy crap, I had this dream, this idea of getting out a rule set for the OSR that was short and accessible, and people could afford it, and they'd look at it, and lapsed gamers would go, hey, that's like D&D, but it's so much more simple, and you can use it to teach people. And I pitched that idea to Zach Glazer over at Frog God Games as just friends, not really pitching it. I didn't realize I was pitching it, I guess. And then he came back with, if you had 4 pages and access to the swords and wizardry rules, how long do you think this would take you? And I'm like, I've never designed a game before. I don't know, 2, 3 months. All right, start. And then 2 weeks later, I get told we need it in a week
Mm, you
because
never
they
told me
wanted,
that.
yeah, because they wanted copies for Game Hole. So now I turn into panic mode because when you're trying to take even Swords and Wizardry White Box, which is a very complete but simplified system,
Hmm.
which still I think hits like 120 pages,
Yeah,
and
120.
you want to break it down to four, you don't got a lot of wiggle room, and I am a fan of quick starts in that I like them because they show me what how a game plays. And that's
Hmm.
great. But I am not thrilled because there's no leveling in these things.
Yeah.
And it's a one and done quick start, and you don't get to see your character improve. You don't get to see the levels. You don't get to see more hit points, stronger challenges. And to me, that's always been what gaming is about: is your imp- the improving of your character to take on a bigger
Yeah.
challenge. So I was like, all right, I got to find a way to take Swords of Wizardry White Box and whittle it down to 3 levels, 4 classes, 4 races, and 4 pages, and include things like combat, saving throws, monsters, and all that wonderful stuff. And the OGL. I couldn't forget that. In 4 pages, and those are 4 8.5 by 11 pages because it's essentially a folder
Yep.
if you can find the original. Um, and I I didn't even know what it was going to look like. Zach did the layout, and he did an amazing job getting all that information. I don't remember how many pages it was in Word or Pages, whatever I was using, but it was certainly more than 4 pages. But we got it down, and just a little hint there, folks. When I say simplified, I don't mean I took the elements of the game away. I just took out some of those more fiddly bits, the dice. Instead of D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, D20, D6, and a D20.
You know,
If you want to replicate
real
it
quick,
D4, go ahead.
what you basically did is you took a loaded club sandwich that you start off with,
Mhm.
and you took out the tomatoes and the lettuce, but you left the bacon, the ham, the turkey, the mayo. That's
I
kind of
left the
like the
meat.
analogy
Yeah.
because I've seen it. I actually relayed
Mhm.
it out. So
Okay.
that's exactly what you did. You did a damn good job too, by the way.
Thank you.
And I'm not just kissing ass to Eric
No,
because
no,
Eric's
no,
involved in
no.
this. It was real to take 120 pages and do what you did to it, Eric. You're a talented game designer. I mean, that impressed me.
It was a labor of love. It was also a labor of holy shit. I got time constraints now.
Hmm.
When you're told you got 3 months to do it, 2 to 3 months, and then you're told 2 weeks later you got a week.
But why Eric 4 pages? What was the big deal about four? Why couldn't it be 6 or 8 pages?
Well, because the 4 pages they could put on one large sheet of laminated cardboard, which then folded up. So the outer 2 pages were the player facing stuff, and the inner pages were the DM facing stuff, and it doubled as a DM screen.
The GM
It was
screen,
an
yeah.
ingenious design. That
Yeah,
really was.
you gave me a copy of it. Actually, the way he laid it out,
Mhm.
props to the guy who laid this originally out. As a layout guy, as a game designer, someone who likes to do this kind of stuff, I'm impressed. He really did a good job of it. And I didn't even put that, you know what? I didn't even put it together. You're right. One side would be player facing, what would be DM facing? That's
Yep.
a hell of a good idea.
And hey, they got to use Earl Otis artwork on it,
Hmm.
which is beautiful stuff. But every word counted when you're limited to
Yeah.
those 4 pages.
Yeah.
I mean, if there were like rewrites and rewrites, and it's like, listen, you got to take this description and you got to cut out 5 characters.
Yep.
Oh, jeez. So, James Spahn actually had a little input on that because James is the one that said, "Hey, Wizard Lock and
Hmm.
Knock is essentially the same spell reversed. Let's just make it the same spell and just reverse it, and then we save the space for a whole spell."
Yep.
When you're dealing with that tight a layout, everything that you can do to save a little space is important.
Hmm.
Swords of Wizard Light does not use experience points. The idea of using experience
Yep.
points would mean explaining experience points.
Hmm.
Wasn't worth the space. So we Swords of Wizard Light or Blades and Sorcery Light, which is what we're going to be releasing.
Yep.
You have a choice. You either do it by session, or if you want a slower progression, you do it by adventure.
Yep.
Okay, so the GM can set the pace, and to go from level 1 to 2 is 2 sessions or 2 adventures. From
Hmm.
2 to 3 is the same. When we get to the full rules for Blaze and Sorcery, there's going to be an optional rule where if the players finish a long series of adventures, you can award them the equivalent of an extra adventure or an extra
Hmm.
session, like an experience point bonus, to say, hey, or they do a great and miraculous job in killing off the big baddie. You can give an award that would be
Well,
useful.
that was one of the things that we talked about, to chime in here a little bit, is
Mhm.
the whole purpose of Swords and Wizardry Light. And again, we met, me and Tom and Eric met on this, what, about a week ago, less than a week ago.
Yep.
We met and had about an hour and a half session. And, the whole idea behind this was, even I was confused because you have Swords and Wizardry Light, and then you have Swords and Wizardry Continual Light. And it was confusing to me, and it was actually confusing to a couple other people because I had a person reach out to me and go, "Wait a minute, light, continual light, what's going on?" So,
Right.
if I'm correct in
And
this, go ahead.
yes. Well, what I would
I'm
say
just.
is the reason, and there's a reasoning behind it,
Mhm.
because Swords and Wizardry Light was published by Frog God Games. Now, Frog God Games at the time was also publishing Swords and Wizardry Complete
Yeah.
uh, with Matt Finch, and they had with Matt the trademark for Swords and Wizardry.
Yep.
The IP for Swords and Wizardry was theirs, and there were other flavors of Swords and Wizardry that were out there approved by Matt Finch, Swords and Wizardry Core, which doesn't have the extra classes, and Swords and Wizardry White Box, which at the time was the most stripped down version you were going to find. And there was also a Swords and Wizardry Quick Start that was out there, that wasn't published by Frog God, but you can find it, but there's no leveling in that. So after Swords and Wizardry Light came out, the response was beyond my expectations. Suffice to say, it went through 2 print runs. I think the first print run was I don't know, 5K. I know it was in the multiple of thousands, and that was gone in like the first year and a half, and then they did a print run of it. But I was talking with James Spahn again, and James was really enjoying Swords and Wizardry Light. He liked the way the levels worked. He goes, "We should bring this to a higher level." Well, I said, "All right." We bounced names around. Well, what would we call it? I go, in the end, we're like, well, Continual Light sounds good because you went from light and you're continuing it. So that's how Continual Light became the name. So we spoke with Bill Webb and Matt Finch at the time and said, listen, this is what we want to do. And we were thinking, I don't know if anybody remembers EN World from the years back during the 3rd edition. They had one of the things that would be talked about a lot was a system called E6.
E6,
and E6
was,
okay, so E6 was basically 3rd edition, but maxing out at 6th level. That was E6, and James and I bounced it back and forth, and we were like, you know what, maybe we should max out at 6th level. And that's where we were until we spoke with Bill Webb, and then Bill's like, 7th level, and you got a deal. Because we needed permission to use the name Swords and Wizardry in the title, and we got the blessing. And so this was not a Frog God release. It wasn't a Matt Finch release. This was a release from basically me with some large amount of input from James Spahn, and it took what was a 4-page rule set, brought it to, I don't remember, 16, 17 pages. And one thing that you don't find in Swords and Wizardry Light or Blades and Sorcery Light is an equipment list.
Yes.
Because equipment lists take up pages. So you get your starting equipment is, you pick one of 2 packs as by your class, and then you pick a general pack as for your adventuring gear.
Which I think is actually a really cool element. Instead of buying equipment, you get a backpack and it's pre-stocked.
Yeah, it's pre-stocked. And listen, there are people like Joe the Lawyer lives to shop in game and gamble in game. If you're playing like Rappanathic and they find the magical slot machines, I am not a shopper in game, and I'm not a shopper in real life. I worked retail for 8.5 years. Shopping is a chore. Okay, I don't want that chore if I don't have to go through it, especially not with a new character. So these packages, to me, was an easier way, and I'm not the first person to do it. There were other games that were doing it, but I just thought, hey, this is a quick and convenient way to get characters completed quickly. So, like, I run Swords and Wizardry Light. We'll say I'll be running Blades and Sorcery Light at conventions. And I usually go and pass out copies of the rules and say, create your character. And you play with me in another session somewhere else or next year, and survive 2 sessions, you level up. So you can bring your character back at a convention, but you're going to design your character. A table of 8 will be done in about 15 minutes, maybe less. And to me, that's a sign of a good rule set for convention play. Continual Light, or what's going to be Blades and Sorcery, or Blades and Sorcery Core, whatever we decide to call it. That's going to be the rule set that you're going to build off on if you want to do campaign play. If you want something that's going to last you for a year or years. And I'm very happy that, Don and Tom and I became not just friends, like we bonded, yo bro type of deal. But I trust these gentlemen not just with my life, but with my creative child here. And I couldn't be in better hands than these two gentlemen.
Well, we
And
got the
I know.
preliminary layout done already.
Mhm.
We got the primary layout done. The only thing that's being done now is I'm installing what we talked about last week, all the little minute changes and the modifications
Right,
to it. And
right.
that'll be done this weekend.
Okay, so like for folks like Blades and Sorcery Light, if you played Swords and Wizardry Light, the changes are going to be minimal.
Yep.
There are things that over the course of the last 8 years, you can go, wow, I could have worded that better. Don's another game designer, and an extra set of eyes always helps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've become partial to gnomes over the last couple of years. So I was like, all right, we're not limited to 4 pages. We're going to be doing digest size. It's going to be short,
Yep.
but it's not limited to those 4 pages. That's not the format we're going for this time. So we can stretch it a little bit, but Blades and Sorcery Light is going to be a very comfortable OSR RPG rule set to introduce
Mm-hmm.
new players with, to bring people back into gaming who stepped away because of responsibilities.
Yep.
Awesome for convention play. Should be fun with your own group, especially if you want something that's not as rules heavy. And
Mm-hmm.
once we with Blades and Sorcery, I'm going to call it core for now, just to
Yeah,
differentiate
because it
these
is. It's kind of the
conversations.
core system.
Yeah, right. So Blades and Sorcery core, we are going to certainly flesh it out. Don, myself, possibly even Tom. We have classes that we want to make core
Mm-hmm.
classes. So the conceit with Continual Light, as it was written, was that all right? Well, you can be a ranger is a fighter that tracks, and it takes one extra session per level to level up. We might keep some of that, but we have some core classes that we want to flesh out.
Shall we
They
tell
don't.
them real quick? One of them.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, Eric wanted the gnome, and I think a
As
gnome.
a race, yes.
Yeah, as a race. And to be honest with you, I like playing gnomes when I do RPGs. I like the gnome character, but I wanted another class, and that is I want to do the Valkyrie.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like what I want to go ahead and put into it. Um, so that's one of the things that are going to go into the game that's a little bit different. Along with the race, the gnome, we're going to add the Valkyrie, and we might add another class or two. Who knows? I mean, it's kind of
Right. I mean, that's the fun part. Okay, like Blaze and Sorcery Light, the changes are more cosmetic. They are more putting finishing touches on it, and it's kind of like,
mm-hmm.
all right, yeah. What did I know back in 2016? Uh, you know, but now I can take those last 8 years of being involved in gaming, in the process, in the creative side, in helping to organize, getting out to zines, and uh, honestly, just talking with and knowing a lot of publishers and reading way too much material and owning so much more that I've never gotten to, that I've learned a lot. And that just means that you got to take what was there and go, all right, it was very good for the time. It could still be
Yep.
a little bit better.
Well, and
You
what
know,
really helps now is you have 8 years under your belt of this game being out in the wild, being played by
yep.
people. And you've heard opinions and feedback and ideas and criticisms and all of that. And you can take all of that and you can let it gel and put it into the new system, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I guess it's ShireCon last year. And one of the players at my table actually had printed out and bound the PDF of Swords and Wizardry Continual Light.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he loved his home campaign, used it.
Yep.
He was just very excited about the whole thing because in my experience, um, the more, I don't want to say complicated, that might be too strong a word, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the more bits and pieces that you have in a system, the harder it is for somebody to come in and play with it and change it to
Yeah.
what they want to play with. It is much easier to add something to a streamlined system than it is to subtract something from like 5e. Okay,
Yes.
if you start changing bits and pieces of 5e,
Yeah.
the system starts to have a heart attack and
Yep.
not work, not do what it's supposed to do. But something like Blades and Sorcery, you can come in and go, all right, well, I'm being given that simplified core, but you know what? Maybe maybe in my home game, maybe I'm more comfortable using the full array of dice. Maybe I want my
Yeah.
D4s and my D. Dude, you can do what you want and do what you need. The great thing about the OSR is that you can literally beg, borrow, and steal material from other OSR rule sets.
It's called being
And
creative.
yeah, it's just to have something that is just made to be built off of.
Mm-hmm.
This you're gonna get a streamlined system that there isn't that much left to pull off, but you can certainly put on what feels
Mm-hmm.
right to you. So we have a lot of plans between the three of us for future work that's going
Yes.
to probably push uh Blades and Sorcery to corners that you didn't expect.
Yes.
But I think that, listen, could we use it for something that's starfaring, science fiction? Certainly. Probably have to add some kind of skill system,
Mm-hmm.
but it's easier to add a skill system than it is to remove it.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot that we're going to do with it. Um, we just got to get the light rules are pretty much your introduction,
Mm-hmm.
and the core rules are going to literally be the core. They are at this point likely going to still remain through level 7, but
Mm-hmm.
we have plans to allow you to adventure beyond that.
Yep.
Now, Continual Light, as written, had optional rules in the back that allowed you to play extra sessions or play extra adventures, and you
Mm-hmm.
earned points. And those points, you could buy an extra spell slot, you could buy a bonus to hit, you could buy additional hit point, improve a thieving skill. There were things you could do, but you were never hitting level 8.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, and that may still be part of what's going to be the core rules. But we do have plans that if you want to take this beyond level 7,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that uh, the one rule book that I got a lot of use out of, even though I was an AD&D player, was the rules compendium,
Yeah.
because it took what was most of Beckme, probably except for the immortal rules. I don't think there was,
Morals. Yeah.
but and I guess I can't say but it took the Beckme rules and literally put them in a single book that was easy to digest and had a lot of options, but at the same time was built off of basic D&D. So unlike AD&D, which had all these fiddly bits and
Yeah.
stuff that tables like overbearing and pummeling tables for combat that had nothing to do with your regular combat tables, the rules compendium was a bit more,
Yep.
I don't know, self-consistent in how it was put
Mm-hmm.
together. And I think when we start getting full use out of Blades and Sorcery core, that we're going to find that we can really take it in some really fun directions.
Well, and also what people don't know is there's someone else that's involved in this, and that is once we get the game this weekend, I'll have the game pretty much everything entered. I'll let you and Tom look at it. Once you guys say it's okay, it goes to our editor. And who's our editor? Tim Kask. So Tim Kask will be editing it. And when Tim Kask gets his hands on it, I believe, of course, what Tim will do is Tim will give his input into it. So, I mean, you can't get any closer to OSR, I think, than Tim Kask, you know?
Right.
So I think with his input and his editing the game itself, which Tim's an excellent editor, but he'll be offering, you know, opinion and comment and ideas. And, you know, if we decide to add those into it, I think that would just be a boon to the game also as a whole.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, you know, even the games that come out, like, and you look at it and you see one name on the cover, and then you start reading into it on a credits page, and it's like additional writing by XYZ, editing by, play testing by, and if you think that play testers aren't giving input, you're out of your mind.
Oh yeah.
Okay, a good, you know, game designer listens to their play testers. Now, I'll be honest with you, Swords and Wizardry Light, the play testing for that was, here, have a copy, because the system itself was based off of Swords and Wizardry. I didn't change any of the mechanics. All I did was whittle it down to its pure essence, and thankfully, I didn't screw anything up.
I'm going to pull something real quick that I think would be interesting because we talk about playtesting. And that is, if I can find it fast. I might not be able to find it fast. I was actually going to show what our playtest sheets look like. But yeah, playtesting is essential to the game because your playtesters who never touched the game before, they're seeing it for the first time. They have their own biases, but they don't have the biases pre-built because they don't know about the game, and they're playing it. They're going to be invaluable to us. I mean, it's going to be absolutely.
Right. So it's the least amount of if you have Swords and Wizardry Light, you're going to find Blades and Sorcery Light and go, hey, this is the same game. Essentially, it will be. It might be something that might be phrased a little bit differently. It might be cleaned up a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be the same thing. Once you get to the core rules for Blades and Sorcery and you look at it against Continual Light, you're going to go, oh, they added. Yes, we added. Oh, they changed. Yeah, certain things might change.
Yeah.
That's going to be part of the process. So, you know, the light rules have been essentially play tested in the wild for 8 years. I don't expect really any substantial changes to it. And continual light rules, the core rules for Blades and Sorcery have been play tested, but our changes haven't. Okay, and we are going to. I don't expect anything to be necessarily removed, but we're going to be adding to it. We're going to be fleshing it out to make it a more complete experience. There was one of the conceits or one of the crutches that Swords and Wizardry Light and Continual Light relied upon was the idea that you can go to any OSR rule set and, you know, oh, you need a shopping list? Here's your shopping list. You know, we're going to try to take care of that stuff internally.
Yes. Because
we don't have, you know, the same page constraints. It's going to be a more complete experience than the current Continual Light rules are.
Well, the way we have it laid out right now, we're up to what, 24 pages?
For the light rules, right? So that's and folks, there's not much extra in the light rules, but hey, another thing to point out is, I'm 56, going to be 57. I think Don, you're right.
Myself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wear glasses on these videos because I don't need them for my computer, but I do need those invisible line bifocals. So they are useful when I'm reading and certainly when I'm driving. And Swords and Wizardry Light, I'll still have to do this. I don't want to have to do this with Blades and Sorcery Light. And again, the 4 pages was both boon and bane. It was a boon because, hey, you could literally just hand it out and, you're good to go. 4 pages of that much material, which probably, if you've ever seen anybody else do their own layouts and digest size, I've seen them. They range from generally 10 to 18 pages without the OGL, or more, because they are trying to make it readable. I'm not saying that Sorcery Wizard Light wasn't readable, but
It was small
I,
font size. I think your guys' font size was like 9,
yeah, that's about
8.5 or 9. It was small.
it was. It
But he
was
did that
very
because he
small.
was trying to meet the constraints of how many pages too.
Right. So we're a little bit more freed up from that point of view.
Yep.
So I don't know, Don. It feels good to move forward with all this stuff, to have it in good hands. So
Well, I'm proud to be part of it, and I know Tom is too. You know, and to take your work, and to be a part of it, and to help that legacy move forward to the next iteration is just, just honored to do it, and just really excited to do it.
well, that's good. I mean, like I said, I couldn't picture myself putting this in the hands of anybody else, where it's just like, hey, I know with the two of you, I can sit down and say, hey, well, these are my ideas. I pitch my ideas. You'll tell me if I'm full of shit or if I have good ideas. We're all pretty good at doing that back and forth, but we're also pretty good at going, hey, you know what? That's a good idea, but maybe we bring it to this point, and you're like, wow, that's even better than I was thinking, and that's always a beautiful experience.
Well, and what's nice about working with you is with a lot of creators, when you're taking something that they've already made and they're adapting, and you're trying to adapt it, you get this, well, it's mine, and I'm the final arbiter of this, and how dare you touch my, you don't do that. You're open to changes. You are open to ideas and modifications, and you'll listen to it. And I don't know if that's just naturally you, part of your police training or what, for team building or what, but you listen to us.
Well, I think when I was in a basic managerial officers course, BMOC, because there's got to be an abbreviation for everything. It's got to have some
Oh
kind of
yeah,
cool sounding name.
just like this,
Back,
we're making BS here.
yeah, but back in 2002, we were basically told as New Jack sergeants, well, there's 2 types of sergeants. You've got the nice guy sergeant who's everybody's friend, and you got the asshole. The thing is, if you're an asshole, you can always become somebody's friend. But if you're somebody's friend and you start being an asshole, you'll always be an asshole.
Yep.
And then I realized that my place was to start somewhere in between those 2 extremes. And like, and I think you've seen this, like with Blades and Sorcery Light, I'm a bit more I'm a bit more like Gollum, like my precious, because there
That's
is that
normal.
core. Well, but also because what it accomplished, I don't want to lose by adding too much. But with the core rules, with the core rules, we didn't want to compete with Swords and Wizardry, right? Even though we were using Swords and Wizardry in the name, we weren't looking. We were just looking to get people that were playing Swords and Wizardry Light a way to go on to playing the same, but using the Swords and Wizardry rules, and we, optional compatibility rules between that and complete. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I can now say, hey, what are we going to do now? Now that we've taken this from these 3 levels that we know work well as they are, now we got 7 levels to play with, and we're not. Our space constraint isn't really what it was, and
That's right.
we, as long as we keep the core mechanics pure, all right, we don't change that D20 D6 function. I mean,
Yep.
we've already discussed it that, if we do, whether it's in the core book or in supplements, if we do charts, hey, it's going to be like we could do charts of 120,
Hmm.
D6 and a D20, just because once you force those additional dice into it, you've changed the game. And
Yep.
I'm not saying that we'll probably include optional rules for you to use percentiles, or for you to use, a D12 and a D4, and that's how it should be. But the core conceit, and I always call it a conceit because it's what defines it. Is, oh yeah,
Hmm.
Blades Sorcery. That's a game with a D10, D12, and D6 and a D20. It's got those dice, and that's all you need.
Yep.
And it's always interesting, like, again, running games at conventions, and see people come up to your table with a handful of D6s and 2 or 3 D20s. Nobody, and they don't go. I always have dice at my desk, but they're not looking at it going, oh wait, is this a
Hmm.
D10, and this is a D10? Oh, but this is the D8.
Yep.
How do I? You don't have to worry about that. Just grab a D6, grab a D20,
Yep.
right out the door. I mean, that
Simplified.
simplified. And I've been asked why, and I said, well, everybody has D6s,
Hmm.
everybody, and D20s. You can always buy them solo. Like, you don't have to get a
Hmm.
D. You can always go to a gaming store and they'll sell you a D20. You go to a convention, everybody, oh, I need a new D20. I need my metal D20, whatever. But the other side dice, again, you can look at them and you go, I can't tell that one's a D10 and one's a
Yep.
D8, except for the fact I've been playing for 40 plus years.
Hmm.
But Rach games at conventions, and besides the fact that she's legally blind, um, I can tell her it's like, she goes, oh, I got to roll a hit. She grabs the D20. Oh, I got to roll damage. She grabs the D6. I got to roll a save.
Yep.
Grabs the D20. Got to
Yeah.
roll
She
hit
knows the
points.
system. Yeah.
It's again. My niece was almost 6 when that got published, and I remember showing her a copy, and she's holding it up, and she's like, "Uncle, do you know what this means?" I'm like, "Yeah, it means unpublished." No! I'm like, well, what does it mean? It means that I can play Dungeons and Dragons. It means you can teach me to read 4 pages. Like,
Nice.
I was
Yep.
like, well, yeah. So she knew. She
Yep.
knew.
Well, I'll
And
tell you
that's
what, it's gonna be an awesome game. I really do. I believe it. And the expansions we're gonna do on it, the plans we have down the line, I think a lot of surprises are in store for people, and I think people are gonna, like you said earlier, gonna really see us go to different directions.
yep. And we're gonna bring back Torchlight.
Torchlight.
Exactly.
That's right. We are the magazine quarterly.
Yes.
So, and that's going to be a lot of fun to do.
We have some regular columns from some people, as you may know.
Yep.
Nothing. Nothing's in amber yet, so we can't quite say for
Hmm.
sure. But there's a lot of moving pieces.
Yep.
But it's a damn good time.
Yep.
Damn good time.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on tonight and talk about this. I mean,
Of
this is
course.
kind of our all three of our project. We're really into it. You know, like I said, Tom would have been here, but Tom had dad duties he's got to do with him and
Yep.
Tammy, and um, but just kind of give kind of a rolling end to this is that um, I'll layout will be done this weekend, so it'll go to you guys. You guys look it over. If you guys say that's fine, then it'll go to Tim Cast. Tim will do his edit, his feedback. We'll get those entered, and then this could be ready conceivably sometime in June, ready for print. Um,
That is awesome.
yes. So,
Uh,
and as time goes by, we're going to be blasting all over. Sure, you're going to see our mugs talking about it and advertising. So, Erik, thank you very much for coming on again, talking about it.
no, my pleasure. Listen, we gotta do more of these.
Yes.
Part of part of my issue, part of the reason why we're doing this, folks, as a recorded episode, is because this is Thursday, and that means at 9 o'clock I got to be in my Discord server.
That's right.
And Wednesdays and Fridays at 8 p.m. I got live streams, and Saturday I got a
That's
live
right.
stream.
Yep.
And every other Tuesday I'm in a game. So
Yep.
your scheduling, it's like herding cats. But
Yep.
when Don was like, "Hey, we can do it whatever time," I'm all in. I'll find time. Come on.
Flexibility. Let's do it. Well, again, thank you very much, Eric. And for everybody watching this, thank you very much. Look for information going on Tenkars Tavern, Tabletop Tap Room, and Wizard Tower Games. Also, you run your blog, your online blog. We're going to be having it. Basically, you'll see it plastered all over. And as we get closer to publication, we'll give information on how you can purchase the game and all that good stuff. So, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. This is Don from Wizard Tower Games. Eric, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
we will see you guys later.